Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and thank you for joining us.
Shabbat Shalom.
Streaming in our class. And Dan and Eliza, Michelle, Elias, Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for joining us. Let's begin by thanking God for the gift of learning Torah together. Page 63.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. V'ha'arevna Adonai Eloheinu et divrei Toratcha b'finu u'b'fi amcha b'Yisrael. V'niyeh anachnu v'tzotzei'enu v'tzotzei amcha b'Yisrael. Kulanu yodei shemecha v'lomdei Toratecha lishma. Baruch atah Adonai hamelamed Torah le'amo Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
So Shabbat Shalom. Hey, guess what's coming on Wednesday night? Pesach. And we've been talking in the last several weeks about how Pesach is coming, and it's hard for us to get our head in the game of Pesach given what's going on in the world and in our world. And last Shabbos after class, Michelle pointed out that there's so much juice and energy and wisdom in the second half of the Haggadah, the second half of the Seder, which many of us never quite have enough energy for. We drink, we're kind of tired, we rush through it. And so Michelle suggested that what we do is really, each of us offer our own favorite move from the second half of the Haggadah that can speak to this moment. So that's what we're going to do. Each of us is going to do that, and we're going to do it in the order of the Seder the page from the Haggadah that we picked, with the sole exception of Eliza, because she picked something that's kind of funkadelic, so we're going to start with you.
Right after dinner. Do funkadelic things. So one of the things that my family does that we really enjoy is singing all together. And so we love to do a version of Grace After Meals. That's a shortened version, but extra long in song. So colleagues, I don't know, we haven't actually gone through this together at all, but I'm hoping you'll sing with me anyway. This is the bit of prayer. If you're ever being chased by a bear or chased by a wild animal and you don't have time to say full birkat, this is the text that you use. And certainly this is a time where I feel like we're all sort of being chased by a bear. So it goes like this. Vrich rachamana, malka de alma, mare de hai pizza. That's the whole of it. Vrich rachamana, malka de alma, mare de hai pizza. Same melody, different words. You are the source of life for all that is, life for all that is, and your blessing. And your blessing flows through me, flows through me. You are the source of, you are the source of life for all that is, life for all that is. And your blessing flows through me. Same melody, different words. Ve'asuli. Ve'asuli mikdash. Mikdash. Ve'shochanti. Ve'shochanti. Betocham. Betocham. Va'anachnu nevarach ya. Nevarach ya. Me'atah v'yad olam. Oh Lord, prepare me. Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, true and holy, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you, Yainai, 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 Yainai,
Lisa. By the way, folks, in the Talmud teaser, we embedded the attachments that we're teaching now. So Lisa's beautiful songs that she just sang and led us in so beautifully are on page 1 of the attachment, if you want to be able to do that at home. The short Aramaic is the first one, and Hebrew is the second, and the English translation for both are on page 1 of Treasures in the second half of the Seder, so just download it. Okay, I'm up next, and the one that I'm picking is the moment where we welcome Elijah. And that just feels like it has a special resonance this year because, first of all, we're opening the door. And most of us have been living closed lives. I mean, many people don't leave their home. So opening the door just feels like, oh my God, I'm opening the door. And Elijah is a stranger. And you're welcoming a stranger into your house where now it's just, you know, blood relatives and a few of them, a day after day after day for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. Forever here, we're going to open the door to the outside world. We're going to let Eliyahu in, a stranger, and it kind of intimates to us, it promises to us that this is going to happen again, that this time is going to end, that the closed house will end, that the closed family will end, that the cloistered existence will end, and we can just see, you know, quivering over the horizon, time when we can open the door again. Oh my God, Hashem, thank you for that. We're going to open the door. We're going to welcome in somebody that's not our blood relative. Oh my God, we're going to welcome in a stranger again. That will happen, and that's what this. So if nothing else, that moment of like welcoming in the stranger and opening the door is just so meaningful to me. But then there's the song, which is beautiful because everybody knows it, Eliyahu Hanavi. So I'm going to ask my colleagues, my singing colleagues, to sing Eliyahu Hanavi. And then we've got a special thing that in that page in the attachment, page 2, I've got a special move that is in the Haggadah, A Night to Remember, which I'll do in a minute. But first, if you guys can sing Eliyahu Hanavi.
Which melody?
Eliyahu.
You lead us.
No. I talk, I don't sing.
Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishmi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi, Bimera Yameinu, Yavo Eleinu, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David.
So what's cool about that is, number one, everybody knows it. Number two, it's short. Number three, it allows you to stand up, which is good, to kind of get some energy and blood flow. And it creates a sense of cohesion and connectedness around the table. But then here's what's so cool, and this is an innovation that I first found in this Haggadah that you have a copy of. It quotes Rabbi Naftali Tzvi Horowitz of Rovshitz, Poland in the 18th century, who has the following tradition. He encourages everybody to take Eliyahu's cup. And of course, Eliyahu is the harbinger of redemption. It's fix something, it's make it better. And it invites every person around the Seder table to pour his or her or their cup of wine, just a little bit, into Elijah's cup. And as you do, you're invited to share what will you do to make this a better world. So it's very practical, it's not philosophical, it's not abstract, it's not, God, why did God let a pandemic happen? It's just practical. It's not negative energy, oi, 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 it's positive energy. And it's about what can I do? And it's granular. What am I going to do specifically that is going to make a difference? In my little orbit. I mean, I'm not an emergency room physician. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not an infectious disease specialist. What can I do in my little orbit that will make a difference? So I'll just give you, so I'm not quite sure what my answer is, but I'll tell you I saw a crystalline example of this last night at about 7:18 in the Rabbi Chill Sanctuary. This is an example of what it looks like to pour your wine in the cup of redemption and to kind of take it up a notch in your little orbit. So, you know, last night, Dan and I were here in the Gann Chapel doing Kabbalat Shabbat with Maya Rotenberg and her family, beautiful service. And Michelle and Elias and Eliza were in the Rabbi Chill Sanctuary doing Shabbat Alive. Our service ended at about 7:12, 7:13. So I wanted to go daven with my colleagues. And I was in the sanctuary, and we were at that point in the service when we were going to do Aleinu again. Now, you all know Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol. We've all said that a million times, sung that a million times. Kind of so often that it's perhaps a non-event. And in the middle of an empty sanctuary, at 7:18, at the end of a long day, at the end of a long week, they don't sing Aleinu l'shabeach. They sing something that took my breath away, which I would ask you guys if you'll sing that now. Ein Od. This is a different vision and a different version of Aleinu.
Colleagues, want to start?
Ein Od, Ein Od, Ein Od, Ein Od, Ein
And that's it.
Now that is reinvention. What would it look like to do that move in your life from Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol to what you just heard? And that is what this moment of pouring wine in the cup is inviting us to do. How are we going to reinvent ourselves? And in that way, how will we be able to reinvent our modest corner of the universe? That's my move. Dan, you're up.
Okay, mine might be a little long, so I'll try to be efficient. So my text is the Shvoch Chamatcha, that little part of the Seder that kind of seems to come out of nowhere and doesn't even seem to be, why is it even there? So there are really so many questions. Why is it there? Why is it placed where it is? Why is it associated with Elijah? So I'm going to suggest that it's an amalgamation of several different themes and traditions. These are the invitation to all to join the Seder, Messianism, and the kind of elephant in the room at the Seder, which is the fifth cup, aside from the elephant of the COVID-19. So here's what happens. So we begin the second part of the Seder first by, we open the door inviting Eliyahu to join us. We sing the traditional invitational melody, which we just did a little earlier. And then suddenly, out of seemingly nowhere, we invoke God's deepest wrath in vengeance on the nations that don't believe in God. It is harsh stuff, and then we go back to our regularly scheduled program. The general theme of the Seder is gratitude for the Exodus. Egyptian slavery was preordained, as we know, if we read back in Genesis 15, chapter 15, verse 14, where God promises to Abraham that his descendants will be slaves in Egypt. So why would God further then be invoked to punish the Egyptians? And why are we invoking Elijah? So here's one possible answer. According to tradition, in the Messianic era, Elijah will be the final arbiter of unresolved halakhic questions. One of those questions is the dispute that we find in Pesachim 18a, if you want to look that up in your Talmud, which is the dispute between Rabbi Tarfon and the other sages concerning whether we have the fifth cup at the Seder or not. So Tarfon lobbies for the fifth cup. The fifth one coming he would argue that it should come just right after we sing Hallel HaGadol, which is in the earlier part of the Seder. And why then? Because that's Psalm 136, which is also known as Hallel Mitzri, because it has an aspect of the reference to Egypt, to Mitzrayim. Rashi dismisses this later on, but Rambam offers a possibility of a fifth cup. However, we don't drink from it, according to Rambam. Instead, we leave it for Elijah to determine its status when he returns, since he's the arbiter of halachically unanswered questions. One of the traditions regarding the 4 cups, as we know, is based on Exodus 6, chapter 6, 6 and 7, the 4 terms of redemption, v'hotzeti, v'hitzalti, v'ga'alti, v'lakachti. But if we go one verse further, there is yet another promise, which is the promise of being brought to the land of Israel, v'heveti. This is in Exodus 6, verse 8. So this would be the proof text for the 5th cup, according to Tarfon. The dispute lies in whether the promised land is actually part of the original promise. The first 4 that God promises are unconditional. But going to and remaining in the land of Israel has conditions. That condition, namely the observance of the mitzvot and obeying God. If we don't obey the mitzvot, we are removed from the land, a scenario that occurred, as we know, twice during our history. So it's up to us to wait till the final redemption, the Messianic era, to drink is it up to us to wait to drink the 5th cup? And that has to be Elijah. We have to wait for Elijah to return to know the answer to that question.
Hey, Dan,
Yes.
can I just pause? I want
Sure.
to take you off your script. Can you just talk to us from your heart? What is the Shvach HaMatcha? Just put the text away, talk to us from your heart. Why does this matter?
So it matters, I think it matters, here's why. Because it's all about determining our relationship with God, with each other, and with the Jewish people. And it has to do with what does redemption look like? Does redemption look like all of us being the land of Israel? All of us being connected as Jews worldwide, whether we're in the land of Israel or not? And does redemption look like that I'll go back. So there's a tradition that the reason that we sing Eliyahu Hanavi and invoke Eliyahu at the end of every Shabbat is that there's a tradition that if every Jew in the world were to in some way involve themselves in Shabbat, at that moment, right as Shabbat is lifted, that would bring Elijah, that would bring the Messianic era, that would bring us all together. And it's all about us being connected to each other. So that's why I think this matters. I'm sorry that I was...
No, it's very scholarly.
Yeah. Can I say
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, please.
So I was thinking while you were talking about Eliyahu Hanavi, and to me, I have a different take on Eliyahu Hanavi, especially this year. So, as you well said it, Eliyahu Hanavi talks about an era, Messianic era, an era of redemption. And, we had our normal lives before COVID-19, and we were hoping for a better world. We were hoping for the world of redemption to come. Now, I now see it differently, because we cannot have the world we had before. So, is that the real redemption, the world that we had before COVID-19, when we are able to kiss and hug and share beautiful moments with other people? Is that the redemption? Are we going to rethink about and appreciate more what we have, hopefully, once we go back to the normal life? That's my question.
It's so interesting that you raised that. I've been thinking and spinning around in my head. Don't it always seem to go, you don't know what you've got till it's gone?
Exactly.
And Shvach HaMatcha, actually, as I learned it from one of my really beloved teachers when I was in rabbinical school, has this element of just anger. It's our moment in the Seder when we get to be angry about the fact that there's not that world that is redeemed. And it's not just a lovely, sweet, we hope, we pray, we want.
Right.
But the fact that it's not here is a problem. It's a big problem for us in our lives. And in fact,
So, Rabbi, what do you think about that?
Well, I think Shvach HaMatcha is pour out your anger.
Yeah.
So here's a question. Is anger helpful here? Is a helpful response to COVID-19 anger? In other words, when we get up in the morning on day whatever it is of the COVID-19 shutdown, should anger be part of our emotional landscape, and is it helpful? And I think that, to me, that is what this text invites us to think about.
There needs to be some space and place for anger. So my teacher taught that actually opening the door was supposed to have happened at the time when you say, come and share this bread. It's supposed to happen at the very beginning at halachmanya. And in fact, he used to have a custom that he would stop his Seder at halachmanya and go out through the streets of Jerusalem to go and find somebody to bring into his home. At that time, you couldn't start the Seder until that happened, because otherwise those words were a lie. But when Jews were living in periods of time when they couldn't do that, they couldn't open up their door to others and bring them home, there is anger in that. And many times that anger could be directed at an outside force, somebody who hated us or hurt us throughout history. Today, we're in a similar situation. We can no longer go out and bring people into our homes physically. And I think it's not whether it's helpful, it's there. There is some sense of anger, of disappointment, of frustration, of pain, of sadness, that moment in the Seder allows us to give voice to.
Now, okay, fair enough, but I will just, I'm not a huge fan of anger. I don't think it's particularly productive. I don't think it gets you very far. Actually, I don't think anger gets you anywhere
Anything.
if you hold on to it.
But that's why we don't hold on to it.
Right,
We have
and so-
one
Yeah,
moment.
and what happens after Shafach HaMarchat, our moment to be angry, is Hallel,
Yeah.
where we sing praise.
Right.
So we move, so I think that's an important part of the conversation, is Shafach HaMarchat it
Right.
never ends with Shafach HaMarchat, it ends with Hallel. We move into praise, and our move here is to go on a trajectory from the anger that the world that we love has been temporarily, I hope only temporarily lost, and that we move from that anger over that lost world to praise, to Hallel, because we hope for a redeemed world, where we can get back the world that we loved and lost, and it should come back ever stronger.
And that's such a helpful psychological move. You give yourself a place and a space to feel the feelings that you're feeling, and then you say, but that's not the end. We're not going to allow that to hijack this moment.
Right. Anger gets just a moment,
Yeah.
and then has to give way to Hallel, to
Yeah.
praise. Michelle, you're up next with counting the Omer.
So it's why I love the second half of the Seder, because we can't stay in that place of disappointment and loss. We have to move into a place of hope. And originally when we spoke last week, I thought for sure I was going to do next year in Jerusalem, L'Shana Haba Yerushalayim, my absolutely favorite moment of the Seder, because for so much of Jewish history, it was completely impossible. And yet we kept saying it. And even in Newton last year, when we looked at each other after the Seder and we said, L'Shana Haba Yerushalayim, and we're banging on the tables, and we're like, no, L'Shana Haba Newton, right? That there was a sense of, even in the times
But
of
we
history.
actually were in Yerushalayim, L'Shana Haba. We went March of the Living.
We
and
did.
We ended up in Yom Ha'atzmaut in Yerushalayim.
We did. So this idea of like that even at times when we couldn't get there, we wouldn't get there, that we still sang it and we believed in it, is so powerful for me. But that's a one note. That's a one note. And I looked just a tiny bit further into what I really love about the end of the Seder, and I looked to that second night that we share, that musical second night, and the one thing that's really special for me that I look forward to every year on the second night is the counting of the Omer. And it's odd that the counting of the Omer is actually part of our Seder, because it's not a Seder move, it's not a Haggadah move, but it is a looking forward move. And the counting of the Omer is so powerful because it's so simple. What's the mitzvah, right? Hineni muchanu mezuman, I stand here ready to lekayem mitzvat aseh shel svirat haomer, right? All I'm doing, there's a positive mitzvah, and the positive mitzvah is to count, period. You just count the days. And to me, in this time of COVID-19, I'm really mindful of what you said last week, Elias, that like, if we knew when it was going to end, in a sense, we could be counting down the days. Like, I know I'm going to get there. And what's so powerful to me about the Omer is it's not a count down, it's a count up. And it links two moments of celebration over a bridge of a time that's actually complicated. It's a complicated time. So in my texts that I brought, you have my text, so would you, Rabbi, be
Yes.
our reader today?
I thought he asked questions.
He asks all, yes,
Yeah.
now we're putting him to work.
Yes, counting the Omer, yes.
Yeah. So,
here it is.
Here. There you go. So the reading of the Omer is at the bottom of the page, Hayom Yom Echad La Omer. So traditionally we say La Omer, but there's also Lag Ba Omer. And so I found this really powerful text, which I'd love for you to read, about what's the difference between La Omer and Ba Omer. So Rabbi, will you read that?
Which is that?
The top one.
Top one, okay. The mitzvah of Sfirat HaOmer, the 49 days from the second day of Passover until the day before Shavuot, is often overshadowed by the frenzied buildup to Passover and the exhaustion that sets in after the Seder.
Or like, who has energy for this at the end of your Seder?
But for one group of cancer patients I met, counting the Omer carried a unique significance, and how they counted the Omer revealed a great deal. Rebecca, a woman I was treating for a lung tumor, drew the attention of her patients group to a subtlety embedded in the wording that accompanies the counting of the Omer. She pointed out that two variants of the text for the prayer have evolved. In one version, the participants proclaim today is the nth day within the Omer, in Hebrew, Ba-Omer. In the other, they state, today is the nth day towards the Omer, in Hebrew, La-Omer. As a retired English teacher and self-described pathological punster, Rebecca suggested that the worshiper's selection of a preposition might have a lot to do with his or her prepossession about time. When articulating Ba-Omer, or within the Omer, one appears to be emphasizing the present by focusing on how many days have elapsed so far. Counting towards the Omer, La-Omer, she proposed, seemed to indicate an orientation to the future, when a person counts the days leading up to a fixed goal, be it receiving the Torah on Shavuot or the conclusion of a radiation treatment. It is an indication of a longing to reach that goal. Think forward.
So I found this text particularly powerful. I'd love to hear a little of your response to that idea of Ba-Omer versus La-Omer. For me, what was so powerful about it was it gave me two new paradigms to think about the moment that we're in right now. A, La-Omer, what is that world that we're looking back towards, and how do we get there to a place where we can treasure that kiss again, that handshake, that hug. And then Ba-Omer spoke really powerfully to me about now, right? How do you be in the Omer? So I wanted to ask you each to reflect on that for a sec. How do you be in the Omer? How do you be in this uncertain moment? You're not here, you're not
Right.
there, you're in the middle.
Well, I'm a Jew, so I want to say yes and. I like Ba and La.
Yeah,
In
great.
other words, I think just a future orientation discredits the possibility of making today as maximally meaningful as it could be. So I don't wake up in the morning and think, oh my God, yeah, COVID-19 would not be something I'd pick off the menu, but there is no menu, but this is the day I have. How do I say yes to this day? How do I celebrate this day? How do I own this day? How do I live this day? How do I have an impact in this day? What's good about this day? I don't want to be looking towards the future. I want to be looking to today. I only have today now, once. How can I squeeze all the meaning, all the juice out of today? Mm-hmm. So I'm a big Ba person. And yet, on the other hand, at the same time, I'm a La person because I would like to be able to watch a basketball game again. I would like to be able to talk to my neighbor.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to go to Whole Foods without a gas mask and without gloves. I'd love to be able to go to Whole Foods without feeling like I'm going to war. Mm-hmm. And so I dream of a better day, La, but I want to be all in with today, Ba and La.
Beautiful.
I don't think we have to say anything else after that.
Yeah, I think that's good. The last gloss that I wanted to add to this is that the Omer itself is a period where you would expect and imagine, based on all of our teachings, that it's a period of total joy, right? Because here we are counting this Omer period. It's a very fruitful period. We're counting towards getting the Torah at Sinai. In Kabbalistic ideas, we have the Sephira, and that this idea that we're climbing up the Sefirot, spiritually elevating ourselves. And Daniela Levy, in her book, Letters to Joseph, An Introduction to Judaism, though, also points out that it's also a time of mourning. And it's a time of mourning specifically because there was a plague that raged that affected Rabbi Akiva's students. And not only in that generation, but in every generation, we couldn't ignore the loss and the pain and the devastation that was going on all around us. And so it's a period, to use the words that you just spoke of being a Jew, of yes and. And the idea that we can hold both joy and pain. We can hold both the fact of a world that is torn in half and in such desperate need of healing and hope at the same time. And that's why, in the end, the powerful mitzvah of counting the Omer at the end of your Seders really matters, because it reminds us that we can hold both and still count up, count our ba, and count our la, and continue to move forward.
Thank you. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Michelle. Elias, you are our closer. You're a Mariano Rivera. You're a Jonathan Papelbon. Take us home, big guy. Take us home. You're our closer.
So one of the fascinating songs that we have in the Haggadah is the Had Gadya. And why is that? Had Gadya, first of all, has nothing to do with Pesach. Okay? Nothing to do with Pesach at all.
It's in the Seder. What do you mean? It's the last song, and of course
It's where we make our animal noises.
I'm just telling everybody because none of us sing ever Had Gadya because we're all, with 20 cups of wines already. All right. And anyway.
Wait, there are only 4 in the Seder.
That's right. Minimum. Anyway, so Had Gadya is fascinating. First of all, because it's written in Aramaic. Second, because the origins are unknown, but everybody believes that it's from the 15th century, and obviously it was added later into the Haggadah. And as I said before, it doesn't talk at all about the theme of Pesach. It's fascinating. For many years, as probably all of you know, I have two boys at home, and we enjoy, for all these years, going to the movies together. And the type of movies, that we go and see are not necessarily Frozen, more girly ones. We see superheroes and all kind of movies. And what I like about those movies that in theory are for kids is that they always throw here and there something that the parents will be happy about. Mm-hmm. They throw like a song from the 80s or 90s. They throw a joke about a character from the past, and we start laughing, and the kids, what happened? Anyways, so anytime I was in the movie theater, it's not actually true, but it really helps with this, I'm thinking about Had Gadya. Because when that happens, they throw a joke there, oh, Had Gadya. And why is that? Because Had Gadya, it's a fabulous song for kids. It talks about different animals and different things about, the one comes and eats the other, and one comes and eats the other. And, then I'm going to use your theatrical skills to reenact all the sounds that we do for Had Gadya. Mm-hmm. But it's also for adults, because the hidden message is that there was always and always are oppressors oppressing the Jewish people. And each one represents, for example, just to name quickly, the cat represents the Assyrians, the dog, the Babylonians, and the Romans, and the Crusades, and the Ottomans, and everybody, the angel of death. But it's fascinating because both kids and adults have a message here. Kids get entertained if they are awake, and adults see the real message. So before I want to sing the couple of versions that I brought, I want to open the discussion here because, normally in Pesach and in many other holidays, what's the usual stuff? They try to kill us, we survive, let's eat. Well, we already eaten here anyways. But the point is, how to apply this to this text and how relevant this text becomes this year when COVID-19 is happening to everybody. There are no oppressors. The oppressor is COVID-19. But it's not that one country is against the other, or we are all in the same boat, you know? It's interesting because we always feel that we are the people who got oppressed over the centuries and many other people as well, but now does it make sense to sing this now when everybody's oppressed?
What's your answer?
No, I asked the questions, you answer. I don't know the answer.
Wow.
But it seems like, in a way, it's out of place, you know?
See,
Also,
I would
just-
argue against that, actually.
There,
I would argue against that, actually.
Against.
well,
Okay.
Because you know, COVID-19, yes, it's here, but our Jewish tradition and Jewish history is still here as well, and Pesach is really celebrating and keeping that in mind.
Right.
So still keeping in mind that the fact that yes, COVID-19 is here, but don't forget, you know, as you mentioned, you know, the Crusaders, the Ottomans, the Nazis. In every generation, b'chol dor v'dor, everyone rises up against us, and that's something that yes, there are other peoples to whom that is relevant. It is very relevant to the Jewish people. So I think it's still a very relevant message.
Thank you.
So
Other
I'm thinking,
opinions?
yeah.
Other opinions, please?
So I have a question about oppressors in this song, because it feels like this song undermines that concept in that, like, the dog and the cat and the ox, like, I don't see anyone as anything as oppressing anything else. It's everything is living its life and doing its function, and it happens to have a negative impact on the one below it. But it's not that.
Slaughter,
No,
you don't
yeah.
feel like it's oppressive?
I mean, that's very unfortunate, but also, like, that's the way that life works, right? Like, if you go on safari, you see, like, animals eating animals. Like, that is how our world works, which is that some of us will be food sources for others of us. Like, that, it's not oppressing. Like, when a cat catches a mice to eat it, I don't think that's oppressing the mice. It's just the cat needs to eat, and that is
I've
its
never
food.
seen a cat eating a kid.
I'm not saying that it's not a ridiculous rendition of it, but I think that this song calls into question, like, there is a possibility, like, you have the potential to feel oppressed or to understand, right? And when you're in a conflict, when you have a dear friend who's done something or said something to hurt you, you can either feel oppressed, right? Like, you did this to me, how could you, how dare you? Or you can try to understand what's going on for you? How is it that you entered in this moment? What's behind that? And then if I can understand what happened for you, then we can both work towards a resolution. But if I'm always in the mindset of being the oppressed, being the victim,
Yeah.
there's no hope for a solution.
I like your opinion. I don't agree with it. I don't think this is the message of this song, but, you know, it's valid.
But
So-
you're, just so I understand your point, Elisa, I've never actually heard this Perush's interpretation before, but your interpretation of it is against victimhood, against victimization, against seeing ourselves always as the category of the victim, the oppressed, and to kind of reframe it as there are certain inherent tensions in our existence. So according to that Perush, this is against victimization. And that creates its own
Yeah,
sense
but
of
can I
emancipation
say
and
something?
liberation. If you can unyoke yourself from the victim narrative, Israelis famously don't like to see themselves as victims, right? They're not victims in history. The Haggadah ends, the Seder ends with, you're not a victim, own your own fate.
Yeah, I mean,
you're not done.
There is nothing clear in the message of the song, in the actual words, that says one thing or the other. So it's
Right.
pretty much interpretation.
But I think I can, thank you. So I want to bridge those two narratives, actually, of victimhood and not being a victim, because I think actually both are inherent in this song, because I think we have been victims. That's the idea of the song. I believe is it Chava Alberstein who sings the Dezabin Abba? In Israel, there's a modern version. Dezabin Abba bitrezuzeh chagadia chagadia.
So he started with Yoram Gaon.
Yoram Garon?
I think he
Okay.
started with him.
So the words actually of Chad Gadya are taken in a modern landscape to speak about the challenge through time, and not only being a victim, but being somebody who victimizes others. And that there's this wheel of life that is constantly turning. Maybe it's innate, maybe like we're just being who we are and we're just doing what we do, or maybe it's through anger, but it doesn't really matter, because the whole cycle is messed up. Like that there's some way in which Chad Gadya tells us that we actually need to be part of stopping that cycle. And something you said at the beginning, Cantor, really spoke to me, which is that here we are and we're all in this together in COVID-19. One of the lies that COVID-19 unearths is the idea that we're all separate from each other, that we can have a world in which, this tribe is over there and that tribe is over there. There was this amazing picture that was posted in the Jerusalem Post about, that showed two Israeli ambulance drivers, one of whom was an Arab Israeli who was praying on a prayer mat, and one of whom was a Jewish Israeli praying with his talis there right next to the ambulance. And the idea that Chad Gadya ends with, which is like, there's got to be an end to this at some point, people. Again, at some point, we have to figure out we're all in this together.
Thank you.
And create that kind of world.
Can I sing?
Please.
All right,
Will
so
you
everybody-
sing? Yeah. And
everybody-
also
sorry.
the Latino version as well.
The Ladino.
Yes.
With D, not with T.
Ladino, okay.
Latinos from South America. Ladino is a language that the Spaniards, Jewish from Spain, carry around the world. Anyways, so the Ladino version is at the bottom, in the back, and fascinating. Why? Because the Sephardic people and all their descendants have been singing this for centuries, and obviously, if we applied one of the takes of Chad Gadya, it's because, what they suffer with the Inquisition. So it goes something like this. Un cabretico que lo mercó mi padre por 2 levanim. Beautiful. Anyways, and I'm going to sing the last one. Y vino el santo bendicho, y degolló al malach hamavet, que degolló al yochet, que degolló al buey, que se bebió la agua, que amató al fuego, que quemó al palo, que ajarvó al perro, que modrió al gato, y se comió el cabretico, que lo mercó mi padre, por 2 levanim, por 2 levanim. Anyways, so let's go and now sing the Chad Gadya as we know it. And everybody who wants to add some sounds for the different things. So I'm going to go to the last one, which is the Malach HaMavet. ואתה קדוש ברוך הוא ושחט למלאך המוות ושחט לשוחט לתורה ושחט למיה וחבל לנורה ושרף לחוטרה דחיקה לחלבה דנשך לשונרה דאכל לגריה דצבנה בביטרזוזה
So our dear friends, here's the main point. The main point is the game is worth the candle. The Pesach Seders are super meaningful. They're especially meaningful this year. Let's get our head in the game. Let's open ourselves to the Pesach Seders and let the meaning of all these songs, all these prayers, all these ideas lift us up when we need it most so we can be on the other side of the Pesach Seders ever stronger. Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you with
Shabbat
services
Shalom.
in 15 minutes.
Shalom.
Shabbat